Welcome to the podcast of MotorWeek, television's original automotive magazine. MotorWeek is made possible by Lucas Oil, TireRack.com, and RockAuto.com. Here's your MotorWeek podcast host, John Davis.
Thank you, Alec Webb, and welcome everyone to MotorWeek podcast number 282. And with me today are Brian Robinson, Greg Carlos, and Jessica Ray here at MotorWeek World Headquarters in Studio C. Let's get right to it. We've got four interesting vehicles we're going to talk about. But we're going to start off with a vehicle that I have to say, as electric vehicles go, we've had more questions, more anticipation about it than anything else I can think of, and that's the Cadillac LYRIQ 2023. Brian Robinson, why don't you take the lead?
Yes, sir. We all know that Cadillac will have no more new internal combustion engines, all electric new vehicles from here on out. This is the very first one. Same Ultium platform that was in the Hummer, scaled down version of that same platform. First ones to come out are rear drive only. That's because the rear motor is the same as is in the Hummer, but with packaging, they couldn't get any of the front Hummer's motors to work up front. So they're developing a new front motor, which they'll be out next year, all-wheel drive. Currently, the rear drives put out 340 horsepower. All-wheel drive will be in the neighborhood of 312 miles of range for the rear drive. As far as looks, it's really long and low, more like a wagon,
much more
than an SUV. Obviously, they wouldn't want to hear that, but really smooth bodywork with some shoulder to it. It kind of looks like a muscular Volvo. I don't want to, not too much, but just as far as their modern Volvos are like really sleek, but have that muscular look to it. Same with this Cadillac. The grille, it's got a somewhat traditional grille face to it, but the grille is pretty trick. I don't know if you've seen pictures, hard to describe, but it's one plastic piece with a ton of LEDs behind it. So basically, and you can program the LEDs to do different things. So you can have a different looking grille depending on what you have. And then they made a point of saying that's 100% modular. They can pop that right out and put in any type of grille that they or the aftermarket will come up with, and they fully support that.
So in other words, you could probably have it programmed in the future to where if you're following too close to someone, it'll
I'm not sure
shout
that you
out
can
a message
program
to them. Why don't you move
detail,
out of the way?
But yeah, just as far as the way the lights work in different shapes.
That's pretty cool, though.
Yeah, it's definitely pretty straight.
It looks like a Cadillac, though.
For sure.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
maybe a Cadillac from 30 years ago, not so much art and science, kind of going back to when they actually looked really nice looking.
It is more attractive than just about anything else.
It drives phenomenally smooth. It's got a 33-inch screen going across the dash. And unlike a lot of times when we see these screens, it's one piece of glass with individual screens behind it. This is one true 33-inch screen that you can move stuff all around.
Cool.
Yeah, I didn't play with it as much as I could have, perhaps. We had other stuff to do, so I didn't get fully into it, but it's really trick.
Were you impressed?
As far as
everybody's been talking about this now for 3 years.
I think the range is right there, and they've got super fast charging. On the DC fast chargers, you can get like 76 miles in 10 minutes added in. It drives incredibly smooth and quiet. They went next level with their noise cancellation. Probably the most impressive thing is just the pricing. They priced these initial ones at $63,000. All 23s have already been claimed. You can order 24s, I think soon, if not right now. And everyone's like, well, that's really going to go up. It's actually going to come down because all of the 23s, just to keep it easy and get them out there, they're all one trim. The only thing you do is you select your exterior color, whether you want light or dark interior, and whether you want 20 or 22-inch wheels.
Otherwise, it simple.
They're all outfitted the same, no options. That's it.
Interesting.
And that's priced at $63,000. It's going to be a mid-level trim eventually. There's going to be 24s. There'll be a $60,000 base model. All-wheel drive is only $2,000 more. That's $65,000.
Because it's going to be standard rear drive. you know, awful lot of people, including Cadillac owners, haven't had a rear-only drive vehicle in a long time. But you know, obviously, it's not stopped anybody from buying it. So.
No, I don't think most of their buyers even really notice or care. They definitely
the weather gets
they
lousy.
definitely will want the all-wheel drive. Yeah, I don't know if you remember another trick feature. I don't know if you remember the ELR. I made note of that in our quick spin of it. That was essentially the Cadillac version of the Chevrolet Volt. When that came out, it had a regen on demand brake paddle
Love that
behind
thing,
the steering wheel. Yeah, this one has it as well, only it's like 100 times better. The other one was kind of off on. This is super linear, just like a brake pedal would be.
So if you like hold it longer, does it increase the amount of regenerative braking?
It's more like the more you squeeze it, just like
Just
so
like
is that-
brake.
oh,
Yeah.
wow.
It's like a brake pedal.
Yeah, the
That's
more you
really
squeeze
cool.
it, the harder
because it
it'll
was the one I'm thinking of is
Yeah.
like basically a switch. So you're saying this
Yeah.
has like a nice level of like how much you can pull it back.
Correct.
So
Yeah.
That's awesome.
So it really is just like a brake pedal on your steering wheel.
Exactly. It's exactly
that
what it
is
is.
sweet.
Yes, yeah.
That's cool. That's very.
That's
sweet.
how it should be. I mean, I was
Absolutely.
ranting to Robinson about this earlier. Like, if you're going to give me the ability to select multiple regen modes, it's either got to be a button or preferably a paddle to me.
Yeah.
Like, I think there's no other way around it. Like, we have a BMW iX in right now, and you have to go through the menus on the screen to change it, which I just think is so unintuitive. I mean,
think
if it's something you want your drivers to be able to change on the fly, it should be set like a button, a
Well,
switch, a paddle.
it should be able to be changed on the fly too.
What was it wasn't the EV6, the key EV6, didn't it have like 4 positions?
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
You could
And
adjust
that-
it with the pedals.
And that was
Paddles,
fine.
yeah.
I thought that was
Yeah,
it.
yeah.
Yes, and that's why I
But
said that's how it should be.
Yeah.
I'd rather have this where
Agreed.
where you can basically drive. You know, you're not just turning a switch on, you're actually having some interaction and you can
Yeah,
Give it a little
and
more
that's,
braking when you
that's
want
full
it.
regen braking.
Yeah.
Then the regular brakes, they're also everything about the car. There's not one part that's ever been on any GM vehicle.
Wow,
it's
really?
all it's all new stuff except for the Ultium platform, obviously. But they made a big point. Even the natural legitimate brakes, whatever you want to call them, the regular brakes, they're even totally different than any Cadillac they've had, and to make that transition from regen to real brakes like non-existent. They really feel the same, either one.
Are the brakes fly-by-wire?
I'm sure. Yeah.
I was actually going to go back to something you said earlier about how they're going to come out with the all-wheel drive
Right.
model next year.
Yes.
So did they come out and say that they were trying, like what you had said was they tried to fit the motor from the Hummer in the front and couldn't make it work?
Well,
Is that what they said, or
they
is that
just
what,
said
like,
that it wouldn't work, and
Right.
that they wanted
Okay.
to develop
And then-
a unique front motor.
and they didn't want to wait, like they were
Correct.
waiting long enough for the Lyriq to come out. So
Gosh,
it was just
yeah.
like, we got
Exactly.
we got to come to market with something,
Yeah, exactly.
and we'll just put it off till. I mean, obviously they probably have it figured out at this point. It's just a matter of building it and
Right, and then
packaging
plus
it.
it gives them a double. Then
Yeah.
we'll test it again next year. The all-wheel drive version gives them a double shot of publicity.
I don't know why it's funny to me that they're just like, look, we'll figure it out later. We got to get this thing. Let's just give them the rear drive
I don't know. It
version.
seems like that's the General Motors like EV strategy right now, because that's happened with the Hummer. Top of the line first, and then everything follows. They just want to get the product
They want to
out
get it
there,
out there. Well,
so that it's on the
Oh,
road
yeah.
for
I
people
get
to see.
it.
in
I
their
definitely get
defense, when new vehicles come on the market, it's always the top trims that sell first. It's always that way. Perhaps, with Tesla and the Model 3, that was not the case there. But in almost every other, if you look back through history, no matter what trims are available, the top ones always sell out. So they're just saying, fine, it's got everything on it, so let's make sure it all works.
Yeah.
But I think your point actually has another level to it, and that is GM has been promising an awful lot of electric vehicles, and they've been very slow to actually get them out there. And this is for a company that wants to be all electric. So they need to pick up some speed.
I think it will, and part of that is because they're making them 100% unique. They're not piecing and parting them. That's part of what's taking so long. I think once they get that figured out, and the Ultium platform is super scalable, so I think once they get rolling, things will ramp up a lot quicker.
Did Cadillac say who their target buyer is for this? Normally, they're like they give you like an exact demographic. Of
I'm
who's
sure they did. I usually fade out when they start talking about it.
Well, it's almost as we've said before. It's always the young urban person who wants to
happens to have a lot of money and don't we not know very many of those?
Younger and techier. That's who they want.
Yeah.
That's who everyone wants. But again, with that price, I mean, that's cheaper than half the EVs we get in here,
Yes,
and you
it
can
is.
spend easily twice that on an Escalade now.
Yep.
So next gen Cadillac is going to be better looking, techier, and more affordable.
But they don't. They have no tax credits, so
Right, yep.
basically they've got to make it price competitive.
At least at the moment, they're
Yeah.
they're trying really
Well,
hard.
at the moment,
I
but
don't know that that's going to happen.
we could
though.
get into politics and be able to make this a
Sweet, let's
5-hour
do it.
podcast. Well, let's actually then transition to Jessica, who's going to talk about the absolute state of the art, I guess, in traditional luxury
you're right.
SUVs.
Yes.
The Lexus LX600, probably as the same but as different from the LYRIQ as you could possibly be.
Yeah, I think that's a good way to put it. It's a new LX, obviously the flagship of Lexus, and so it looks I would say the front is similar to the outgoing previous generation, obviously a little bit more modern. The rear is way better, like way better. Just has like this really cool, the tail light spans across the entire rear. I think, if you already don't like Lexus girls, you're probably not going to like this one just because it's still
Not getting any smaller, that's for sure.
yeah. But yeah, there's no more Land Cruiser being sold here in the U.S. So this is your luxury Toyota Lexus offering in the full size segment, and it's powered by their new 3.5 liter twin turbo V6 engine that they have that we see in the Tundra.
And it shares
Sequoia.
the chassis with the Tundra.
It shares the chassis, yes, because they're all being built now on the global Land Cruiser platform. So it shares the body of it, even though it really doesn't share the looks or anything, because I think the new Land Cruiser actually looks really, really good. But yeah, 409 horsepower. It's lighter, more powerful than the previous generation. It's really smooth on the highway. It is big, and you're going to feel like you're kind of piloting
full size.
a boat.
Yeah.
But it's big. And inside you have like almost 20 inches of screen. It's very plush, I think is the word I would use, because it feels traditional. It's very Lexus inside. It, of course, a huge thing is it has the new Lexus interface infotainment, so it's much faster than previously, which I know, of course, is always infotainment is always a hot button topic when it comes to.
Yeah, Lexus, they really need it. They have, the way they addressed it was just fantastic compared to what we were used to use inside Lexus vehicles.
Yes, yeah, it's a huge difference.
Did anybody else notice, whoever uses CarPlay, that like in all the Toyota vehicles, and I might have even said this on a podcast, when it reads your text message to you, normally a vehicle will turn down the radio or whatever you're listening to. In the Lexus and Toyotas we've had with this new system, it like keeps playing the music at a slightly lower volume and then like tries to talk over it, and then I'm trying to
really?
speak back to it. Yeah, maybe it's like a setting I had screwed up, but it's just
I don't
interesting that in
know,
the 3 Lexus or Toyota vehicles I've been in that have had it, they've all done the same thing with CarPlay.
If it would sing the message in the song,
That would be great.
that would be next level.
That would be fantastic.
I would actually connect a phone to a car if that would
I might even
happen.
buy one of those newfangled smartphones.
Well, I will say, like, with, I feel like every car is different though with that too, because, and maybe that's just how, I guess, Toyota and Lexus programmed it, because I do know in Hondas, not only does it turn down your music, it also turns down your air conditioning,
Which is
that's
great.
great
yeah.
because you
that-
wouldn't be
if
able
you
to
got
hear
a high
otherwise.
fan.
Especially when it's 100
Yes.
degrees here and you're blasting air conditioning.
And it's just like everything turns down, and then it reads
I
the
need
message.
to be able to tell my wife to go get milk.
Yeah.
I have 2 questions. The third row seat, does it fold up or does it fold down? Does it fold up to the side or does it fold down?
It folds down.
Okay.
It folds down.
So the other question is, I haven't seen it except in the materials. The electric rear window is gone, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's gone
unfortunately,
from
that's gone
everything.
from the everything.
That's
so.
gone from like the Sequoia.
That's too bad because
Tundra.
that was always kind of something they had
Yeah,
unique.
man.
We were talking about manufacturers dumping all their unique features and making everything the same.
You're saying
Yeah.
the one that slides down. And
It used to slide
the
down like a
4Runner.
regular electric
Now it just
window.
flips up.
Yeah.
Does it flip up at all, or is it all
It
just
flips
one
up,
piece?
I think.
I
Yeah, it
think
flips up.
So,
Okay.
yes.
I think it does.
Which is
yeah,
rare
I
in
know it
and of
definitely does
itself.
on
Yeah.
Sequoia. Yeah. It has the configurations inside too are interesting because you can get it's a 4, 5, or 7 seater, so you can get like VIP seats in that second row,
Which usually don't fold and are useless for carrying cargo, but yeah.
But when say the top of the line ultra luxury
you're being
trim,
chauffeured,
yes,
you know.
right, a car that starts is
Yeah.
around $125,000, you're not really too worried
What
about.
we also forget
that.
is that like we're talking all about luxury, and this like has all these off-road capabilities
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
nobody
It's
even
still
knows
a
or
Land
cares
Cruiser,
about.
basically.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
like you get inside, you think, okay, Lexus luxury, great feeling seats, nice looking infotainment now, and then you're like, oh, what are all these buttons? It's like rear locker, like all these kind of off-road goodies that people are just going to be like, nah, that's too complicated,
They'll
and
never
I'm never
use it.
taking this off-road.
All right.
And that's really what like the platform is. It's like
Yeah.
people in America don't really get that.
Yeah, I didn't really think it was that luxurious inside myself. I thought it was like a step back for Lexus. I really think they should have kept that a Toyota Land Cruiser and done something better. If they're going to charge well over 6 figures for a luxury SUV, I just would have expected something a little nicer.
Well, I think I saw this before I saw the new Sequoia. And then when I saw the new Sequoia, I was like, wow, I really like this layout inside
Well, it's a much
Sequoia.
more modern vehicle.
Yeah.
Anyway, you cut it.
It's not, and they're going to have a capstone model, which
Yeah.
you sort of are looking at like the Denali to the Escalade sort of situation, the capstone to the LX.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I feel like there's a lot of overlap. But then again, Sequoia is a little bit different. It has the hybrid powertrain in it, which you lose a little bit of space in the rear. So
And would a
it's
Lexus
different.
buyer that can afford a Lexus really be happy in any Toyota?
True.
Probably not.
True.
These comments come from
Maybe a Venza.
from folks that don't necessarily think they'll ever be able to afford an LX600.
Yeah.
Well, 100 and what you say, 25,000?
Yeah, the luxury trim goes for about 127.
So that'll get you a door off the 2023 Lamborghini Huracan Tecna, right,
Maybe,
Greg?
Maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah, so Lamborghini Huracan Tecnica. You've probably heard us talk about, let's see, how many Huracans have we driven since
All of them?
2014?
Yeah.
Like
All of them and a lot of them, and we've enjoyed every one of them.
Spiders,
Thank you,
rear-wheel drive,
Lamborghini.
all-wheel drive, Performante, STO, Evo, and now we have the Huracan Tecnica, which Lamborghini flew me to Spain to drive.
Too
They
bad.
wanted me to drive it so badly. They flew me all the way to Valencia, and I'm very happy they did because the Huracan has really gotten better as it's gotten older, and we're now down to the Tecnica is the second to last Huracan. So they're going to have one more, I think, toward the end of this year they're going to release, and then that's it. Then they're going electrified. They're going to have, it's either going to be a plug-in or a fully electric down the road. So we're talking about very possibly saying goodbye to the wonderful naturally aspirated V10 that have powered all these
It's really a shame.
Huracans.
It's an amazing,
And it's a
amazing
fantastic engine.
It really
I
is.
mean, we talk about how much we love Porsche's 4-liter flat six, how great that sounds. This V10 might be the only competition in my eyes. We were able to drive it on the racetrack there, and actually, let me back up a little bit. So the Tecnica slots below the STO, which is what we drove at Roebling. They're super high performance track machine, which I don't think we've ever seen from Lamborghini, a vehicle that is this track focused that the STO was. So it slots beneath that, and then ahead of the Evo, which is basically their basic Huracan now. Excuse me. And when I got there, I assumed this was going to be like a Porsche GTS kind of thing, where it's like basically splitting the difference down the middle of like your basic daily and then the track star, I'd say it's actually a lot closer to the STO than it is an Evo. Because it basically starts as an STO, then they pull off the massive rear wing, take off some of the aero. By doing that, they increase the top speed. It's over 201 miles per hour.
They actually increase the top speed.
Yeah, because you don't have the big wing, because that's all for
drag.
downforce.
Yeah,
exactly.
right.
But they still increased downforce over the rear-wheel drive Evo, made it slippery through the air. And what you get essentially is like Lamborghini's version of a sleeper, where they it's their most track-worthy car, essentially, without all of the track-worthy looking things on the outside.
The 911 GT3 with a touring package.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's actually a really good analogy, because I got inside and my first so I get to the track where the whole thing is staged, and they give us the introduction, and then they're basically like, "All right, you're the first one on the track." Like, oh, okay.
Sweet.
And they're like, here's a helmet. I said, okay. And they just threw me out there with a pro driver. The only thing I'd seen was just like a quick video of the track. And the speed with which I got comfortable in that car was kind of ridiculous. By the second lap, I mean, I was like two-finger driving, probably taking corners over 100 miles an hour, like I had just been in the STO, which, I mean, I do the same thing in that. Because mostly they have, I think I've said it before, the LDVI, and I'll say it one time in Italian, Lamborghini Dinamica Veicolo Integrata. And it's basically a computer inside the car that monitors like things you can't even fathom in an instant, and then determines where to put power, where to take power away from, and essentially makes you look like a absolute track star without you even realizing it. I mean, you'll see a little amber traction control light flash every once in a while, but you don't feel it. Like, it doesn't kill your power. You're just, as far as you know, you're just driving this thing like an F1 driver. Just absolutely fantastic. But the other side of that is that it's supposed to be better on the street. And I finally got to drive a Lamborghini on the street, which I never get to do. And I gotta say, like, it wasn't that comfortable. But that, like,
and you couldn't see that well out the back.
No, it's still an STO. I mean, it was super firm, and like I'm going over some of these, like, some of the roads were great, some of them were not so great, and it was just like, and they had the sports seats, so that's like even less comfort. You can get them. A standard Huracan Tecnica comes with like more luxurious seats, more luxurious material. Like, you actually have like nice door panels as opposed to the STO where it's just carbon fiber. So, but you can option all those things in, and my car was spec'd that way because Lamborghinis thinks that all the people, or most of the people who are going to buy it, are just going to spec it like they would an STO. It's kind of weird, but whatever. So not super comfortable on the street, but at least like you're not. A Lamborghini will never be subtle, but this is like as close as you can get to being subtle.
But you know, one of the most amazing things, we've been covering Lamborghini for the better part of the 41 years we've been on the air. And they used to be known for being fast, having wild looks, but being really crude automobiles. They're not crude anymore. They've got some of the most sophisticated technology that's out there in the exotic car world.
And you are 100% right about that. They've really shifted everything within Lamborghini. I mean,
I don't know if that's the Audi
they've had a lot of
ownership or
success.
what.
Yeah, they've had a lot.
Engineers speak German now, not Italian.
They had a lot of success in racing very quietly at the 24 Hours of Daytona. The Huracan has been hugely successful for them. But what you were saying, so yeah, it is very modern. But what we didn't get in the original Huracan was like, it was kind of like a watered down Italian exotic. Everything was very comfortable, easy to drive. Now, like this Tecnica, everything I was saying actually makes it feel more like a traditional Italian exotic.
Like a classic.
Right,
yeah.
but with all the technology to back it up. So it's actually, like, I think it's really cool if you're into that old school Italian exotic feel. I mean, the Tecnica is probably the way to go, and it's probably the best value. $247,000.
I'll take two.
Hold on, I have the exact number here somewhere.
It's close enough.
It probably just went up.
$245,000. Here, my last thing: $245,000 for the Tecnica, $210,000 for the Evo, which is the base, and $330,000 for the STO.
Yeah.
And in my eyes, I mean, just save the extra, what is it, 90 grand almost, and get a Tecnica
Hey, go
because
buy
it's like almost
buy a
exactly an
one-room
Estilo.
condo.
That's the
somewhere by the
markup.
beach.
So that's the markup.
Yeah. So if anybody here is listening and actually in the market for a Huracan, look for that Tecnica.
It's amazing with all the electric vehicles we talk about, there's still basically that kind of raw internal combustion engine power that's out there.
I loved it.
And we've got one more vehicle we'll talk about at the end of the podcast that's more proof of that. Thanks, everybody. Let's move on to our lightning round. And interesting comment. According to a report in our automotive news that we read cover to cover every week, the Nissan Leaf is being phased out of production by mid-decade, expected to be replaced by another vehicle more tuned to the needs of modern EV buyers. What do you think about the death of the Leaf and the potential future of its replacement? Isn't that what the Aria was supposed to be, or is that
No.
just too
No.
expensive?
Nope.
I think the Aria is bigger and more
And
SUV.
it's a whole lot more money.
Well, it was really meant to be like Leaf is base, Aria is
Right.
above.
You're
above
talking
it.
high 20s versus high 30s.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the Leaf always was meant to stay entry level for Nissan, which makes me kind of sad because it meets a lot of people's needs.
All they got to do is take the Leaf. I hate to say it, put a boxier back on it. It's already a hatchback.
Yeah.
Give it call it an SUV and put all-wheel drive on it and out the door.
Yeah.
I mean, the basic package is still incredibly useful.
And I don't see a good reason to get rid of this very well-known name.
Yeah, I don't either.
Yep, that's where I was going to go. I feel like I'm more upset about the name going away.
It's the most recognized, short of Tesla, the most recognized name.
Think about what it was when it
EVs.
came out. We had our long-term.
Right.
Was that our first long-term EV?
Yeah, and I remember the first drive I ever.
Here we are getting
first time I
nostalgic.
drove it. It was the first modern electric car I'd ever driven. I went down to USA Today. Jim Healy, their auto writer, and I basically shared the wheel behind one, and it was like, wow, this is really pretty cool. It was quiet and fast.
You shared the wheel at the same time, or
No. We took
some clarity.
turns.
Okay.
Although
I've driven with
Jim, when Jim
before,
was
I
in the
know.
passenger seat, he was probably reaching for the wheel.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I felt like I needed to reach for the wheel when Jim was driving. That's why I said
No, I thought it was me.
No, but I went on the launch when the Leaf first came out.
Yeah.
I mean, it's easy to forget how groundbreaking that vehicle was. There was no Tesla yet. There was no one that had a electric vehicle that, got 100 miles on the road, which at the time, that was
the
best.
first benchmark.
That was the best. Yeah, that was the best they could do. It drove, it did everything car like it needed to do, and it still does.
You could buy one.
Yeah.
You go out and
Yeah.
buy it.
And they've upped the range. What's the range up to now? Like mid 200s, low
Yeah.
200s?
Yeah.
I think like
For the
250?
Plus.
Yeah.
I
Whatever they
think
So
call it.
I mean,
Yeah.
it's still viable, but it is getting old. And
And
maybe
the
it's time to
charging
move on.
is, I don't think quite.
So they have
don't
to
have the right
put some new
charging.
they have to put some money into it to bring it up to the latest
Mm-hmm.
technology. But I agree with Greg. Doing away with the Leaf name, I just can't see that as smart. Maybe they'll won't do that
Yeah.
because it is so recognizable. They call it the new Leaf. That's all.
Well,
Yeah,
you
we've
can't
turned
bring
over a
something
new
back
Leaf,
if you don't
folks.
take it away. So maybe this is the long game.
Yeah, maybe.
Well, I want to say one thing before we move to a different subject. That the Leaf would not have been our first long-term EV because I believe one of our first long-term EVs was I want to say either a CRV EV or a RAV4
Oh, it's a RAV4.
EV.
But
No,
we didn't
yeah.
have
You
it
guys had a
long term.
RAV4
Yes.
They
No,
had the
I am
RAV4 EV. The RAV4 EV existed.
Right. We didn't have
We
it
didn't
long.
have as long term.
We had it for like a month that we
Okay.
claimed to.
Yes.
All right, that's
So-
what she's-
We talked about it for as it was a long time.
Now
I'm not
we're getting
sure
into
it wasn't
technicalities.
really.
Did I expose something I
That was
shouldn't
No,
before
no, no.
the Leaf.
Well,
This
Yeah,
when
it
I
would've
was
been before the
watching
Leaf, right?
really?
seasons 16, 17, and 18 of MotorWeek when I was
I
binge
came here in
watching
season
them.
31, and I've never been in or seen a RAV4.
I remember
electric here.
Lisa brought it to a school. She's like,
Yeah.
"This is our long-term RAV4 EV." Brought it to a school. Obviously, at that time, you could
may have
only
been
buy.
fibbing.
This kid told me.
You could only
Wait,
buy them in
Lisa was
California.
working here?
Yes,
It wasn't in my tenure then. She was in
No,
there.
no. This was in the late 90s.
Lisa
And
Barrow, everyone.
Yes, Lisa Barra, and she brought it to a school to show all these kids. Like, here's
I might
an
have been in
EV.
school, honestly.
Yeah,
could have
Greg
been
was also there.
The shame of it all, the all age. I don't remember a RAV4 EV here for long. It may have been here for a month.
I remember it was white, right?
Yeah. But I don't remember it being here for a long.
It was either white or it was
Traditionally, a
green.
long-term vehicle,
Might have
folks,
been
is
green.
something that's here from 3, 6, 9 or months or a year.
All right, we'll go to the internet and
Anyway.
update you.
I gotta
I'm
look
sure
it up
people are
now.
already emailing
Our
us right now.
brains just don't compute all the way. But I have to say, the folks around this table, I never doubt them because they're generally always right. That kind of leads us in, though, to a question that we've got from Mark, and it every decent EV that we get in has a pretty aggressive regenerative braking system. A couple that we've gotten in that didn't, we've pretty much not been fans of. So here's a basic question, and it's a good one from someone who probably hasn't owned an EV. What is regenerative braking? Who would like to tackle it?
Well, you're the engineer. I think I'd like to hear your take on it.
Well, I mean, strictly speaking, it's a way of getting the energy that you disperse when you're actually applying the physical brakes, turning it into electricity to help charge the battery. I mean, that's basically what it does.
And
It
it's
also
the
helps slows you down.
Yeah, it's the physical reversing of the electric motors as well.
Correct.
Yes.
Yeah, so, right. Actually, the best way to do this is go over to Engineering Explained. Our friend Jason Fensky has a nice little video that I used to brush up, took 5 minutes on. It's so in a hybrid or an EV, the battery powers a motor. The motor goes through a controller. The controller then goes to the wheel. It powers the wheel forward. When you let go of the accelerator, the controller then essentially turns it into a generator. So everything's moving in the same direction, but now what's spinning the axle is now charging the battery. And the way it slows the car down is that the resistance from the wheel that is now spinning like a generator and charging the battery has to slow down. So what used to be, and you're not using your physical brakes at this point unless you're like getting close to a stop or really panic stopping. This is like if you hit your brakes in a EV or a hybrid and you're just like tapping them to slow down a little bit, you're not using any brake pad. It's all regenerative. It's a computer telling the car how much speed to scrub off. And it used to be when you only had normal pad and rotor, you lost all of that energy to heat and it just went into the atmosphere. It's gone. Now we're able to harness, like, I think I saw a number like 75% roughly of the energy expended in braking a car now comes back into the battery. If it's an EV, you get more range, however small that range is.
It could be a couple of miles of range over a long distance.
Yeah,
easily.
And then so that's the basic working of it. But then it's like you hear us talking all the time about levels of regenerative braking. And at what point Robinson and I have had the debate, and I think you even talked to an engineer about it, like, is there like a thing as too much regen braking? Because if you're on the highway and say you're in the most aggressive settings, you can find yourself going down the hill and having to accelerate just to maintain speed.
Or the moment you lift off, it throws you forward.
Right.
Yeah.
Which I find
There's definitely a
horribly
balance.
uncomfortable.
And I think that also like kind of brings back like the conversation which Greg said about not having it an ease to change your regen braking settings, because sometimes if you're going from the city and then you're going onto the highway, you want to maybe go to a lighter regen braking setting so you're not on the gas like the entire time if you're not using cruise control. So
now I got another question.
Oh.
Regen braking,
Yes.
when it is activated, are the brake lights on?
Yes,
Sometimes.
yeah, with
Depends
the
on how
amount of the
aggressive.
aggressiveness, yes.
It depends on the
Didn't you get a
vehicle and
number? It was
depends
like
on the
50% or something like that.
I don't remember. I did
That was
at one
from
point
one
in time.
automaker.
Yeah.
But no,
We get that question.
No, it's a real question. I think I did a field test with Benny D at one point. And because I didn't know, like it was early on in the days, and it was like really aggressive, and I'm like, it has to throw the brake lights, otherwise, like the driver's.
Otherwise, you'd be in a lot of rear end
And
collisions.
sometimes you want that real region, and sometimes you want to like coast and not have that feeling. But so definitely make them easily adjustable.
Thank you, Mark, very much for the question. Before we get into our rant and raves, let's go back to the vehicles. And the one last one we want to talk about just briefly, that really the debut, even though it's been rumored, the debut was just prior to when we were recording this podcast. Ford Raptor R. Finally, Ford succumbing to all the pressure from the Ram TRX and putting a V8 engine into the Raptor. So 700 horsepower, 640 pound-feet of torque. Oddly enough, just short of what the TRX is listed at. And that seems very un-Ford-like. I was surprised about that.
Ford says, I think it's lighter than the TRX.
So it's faster.
So it's faster. So they said, well, it's lighter than the TRX.
But
this is
buyers,
I'm saying,
they don't
I'm
care
saying
about
this
that.
is what Ford's PR people
But I mean,
said.
it's 700 versus 702. You can't tell me they couldn't have gotten to 705. I just found it odd.
No,
It's
I mean
like-
that's what they said. They said, well, it's lighter than so why do the extra three? An
For
extra
bragging
three.
rights.
Yeah, we do more with 700 horsepower than Chrysler can do with 702.
Yeah, but still, I do think it's pretty interesting. It's the engine that the Raptor has been yearning for, and so it's there. And don't know too many. I mean, basically, it's the Raptor with a V8.
Yeah, I mean,
For all
from
intents and purposes.
what I've heard, it sounds very,
I'm sure it
very
does.
good.
Well, yeah, I mean, that
Nothing
was
like sounds like a V8.
probably all of our biggest knock on the current Raptor is like, while the twin turbo V6 is torquey and I guess and fun in its own right, it's not a V8. And like as much as they tried to make it sound like a V8, it didn't sound like a V8.
And it's hundreds of pounds less.
So this is what
powerful.
everybody wanted.
So This is what everybody wanted. So congrats! I could just see the Ford engineer saying, "Please, we cannot let. We're the number one truck brand on the planet. We can't let the folks over at Ram
I
eat
was
our
trying
lunch."
to think of their marketing department, like what they could do, because so obviously the Ram went with the T-Rex. I mean, what's more fierce than a T-Rex? How is Raptor gonna like up that? Do you think they were in the boardroom trying to figure out like, all right, we can't get away
Well,
from the
we
name
can't call it
Raptor.
global warming,
yeah,
so-
yeah, we call it like the asteroid or something.
Well, you did you say the price?
No, I didn't.
Just under $110,000.
So how does that compare to the base Raptor?
It's like $1 million
about
in
10
cars we
grand
just
more?
talked about.
I mean, we did
The base
Base
isn't the base
Raptor.
at like 7?
Yeah, I was
80?
saying 65, 70. isn't
Yeah,
it?
but so it's 110 to start.
Yeah.
Okay, because you can get a Raptor up almost to triple digits. I think.
Oh, I'm sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But the TRX starts
Oh.
like $25,000 cheaper. I think it starts at like 85,
80 something.
80 something. So,
Well,
if you want the F-150, then
That's
And
it.
a lot of people
There you
do.
go.
I mean, so
true. They'll sell. I mean, it's not like they're not going to sell them.
Right now, I think you could sell a donkey and a cart if you put a car name on the front of it. Right now, anything that rolls seems to sell. Okay, rants and raves. And actually, I've got one.
love it. Can't wait.
Okay. It's one thing for folks to get on a 4 or 6 lane highway, and if you want to go under the speed limit, it's certainly your right. Get in the right-hand lane, please, and do whatever you want to do. What I've got to complain about is folks that are on a 2-lane road, and a lot of highways in this country, main highways are still 2-lane. There, for whatever reason, they're driving 5 to 10 miles an hour under the speed limit, and we're talking like a good distance, 20, 30 miles between locales, and they build up 10 and 15 cars behind them. I have the same complaint with RVs. Folks, why don't you be courteous and as soon as it's safe, pull off to the side and let everybody else go, because you are causing a potential drastic accident. I was behind a car that was on one of our 2-lane highways near our office. It was going 10 miles under. The speed limit was 50 and it was going 40. It had 10 cars behind it. The road has no passing area. And yet, here comes somebody from behind me passing 5 cars on a hill to get ahead of this car.
That's insane.
And I see that all the time. You have the right to drive slow if you want, but if you start building up traffic behind you, pull off. RV owners, please have some compassion for the other people. You're actually saving their lives and making the road safer by just pulling off for 15 seconds and let the people that want to go a little bit faster go by.
I have 2 things to add to that. I agree with you. I think we're kind of like in a pocket, though, where that's really bad, where nobody would even consider doing
They don't
that
even
in the
consider it.
Mid-Atlantic and up into New York. I will say, like in the Northeast, I've experienced it on press events where people will get out of the way. The West Coast, especially the
California,
Pacific.
it's terrible with all the RVs.
Well, actually, I feel like people are more conscious of it.
Yeah, but they're out-of-state people. That's what.
Yeah, and then Pacific Northwest people are pretty good about it too. My other is like sort of a question, because I always have this internal argument when somebody is going that slow on a highway. It's like if anybody were to ever like counter your argument with, well, 65 is the speed limit.
I'm not
which
talking about
means
65.
that is the limit to which. And
But I'm
I want to
talking
know
50.
I want to know what your interpretation is of speed limits. Do you like go on full on technical semantics and say like the speed limit is 65 miles per hour, or are we all under the understanding that that's like roughly where you should be, and really the limit's like 10 above that?
The thing is, though, because
I'm genuinely curious
it's
how other
different
people
between
feel.
here and Europe. In Europe, especially in Germany, when they post on the Autobahn, say, speed, it tells you in the materials, and many times, depending on where you are, it is a recommended speed. And so if you go over it and you have an accident, you'll probably get a ticket. But if you go over it and it's good weather, maybe they don't care, or they give you a little leeway. Depends on the country. I'm talking mostly Germany.
Definitely, yeah.
Here, though, in this country, if you go over the speed limit, you are technically breaking the law.
Right.
It is a limit.
So
I would never, in any kind of public forum, tell anybody to speed. Now, in reality, we all feel that the roads are capable of higher speeds than the limits in many cases under good conditions. But what gets me is you see people basically nailing it and doing 80 on a 70-mile-an-hour interstate while it's pouring down rain, or you have a blizzard. And so then I think the speed limit basically is there because it's saying under this, in all conditions, this is the best maximum speed you can have.
Well, I was just curious what other people's feelings on that subject were, because a unnamed person at some point in my life told me that the general unwritten rule is that it's like up like 10 miles above is generally on a highway.
I know plenty of people that get tickets.
It's how
10
you
miles
keep up
above.
on the highway.
Well, yeah. I mean, just
Not
being
to say that you
practical.
can't go 65 on a 65,
Let's face it.
but
You go on
generally traffic's
95
moving.
heading south out of Washington. If you're, wherever it's 65 or 70, everybody in the left lane's doing 75 and 80. I mean, and if you just keep up with the flow of traffic, that's what you're going to do. Is it legal? No, you're breaking the law, but that's what happens. That's the reality.
I mean, I think in like the example that you mentioned with like somebody driving 40 miles an hour in a 50, you have to use a little bit of common sense, right?
And that's all I'm asking.
You have a queue of people behind you, and I'm always a big fan of defensive driving. I think we all should be big fans of defensive
absolutely.
driving, but that also requires you to think to yourself, all right, yes, a person around me may be driving more dangerously, but it's safer for the both of us if I just let them go.
Which is exactly what I did.
Right.
And it was hard. I mean, I wanted
Yes,
to
it's not
basically.
easy.
I was only two
It's
cars.
hard to take the high road.
Yeah.
It is.
All the movies
Yeah,
have told
I was
me
in
that.
something with enough power that I could have overtaken this vehicle, and we had a couple of spots where it could happen, and I didn't. And then somebody from behind me goes, flying by, and it's like.
I dealt with the same thing this morning because on the route that I take to come to MPT, today was trash day, so there was a garbage truck in front of us, and
Did I ever tell you the time I hit in an accident? I hit a trash truck. Never mind.
What?
That's for
No?
another podcast.
All right. Anyway, next podcast.
Stay tuned. That's what they call
No,
keys.
actually, it was my father who was driving. So.
Well, we didn't hit the trash truck today, but it was trash day. So there's, a huge queue of cars, but we were coming up to a turn, so there was nobody was going to be pass or should have safely
Nobody
been
in their right
passing.
mind.
But the person in front of me had a baby on board sticker, and I could see 2 car seats, so they were definitely not making any moves. And it was me, that person, the trash truck, and then there was probably a queue of 20 cars behind me. And so they're doing their trash thing, and that person in front of me did not pass until there was no one in the other lane that they could see, and we were on a straightaway and not on that curve anymore. But I know for a fact that if that person did not have small children in their car, somebody else would have made a way riskier move on that turn. And it's just safer for everybody to just like
God bless the
relax,
children.
like take a couple deep breaths. I know you got to wait a couple extra minutes for somebody, but like in a situation like that, just relax. That's my advice.
In the end,
Jessica says relax.
If you do take the high road, you probably at most will be 2 to 5 minutes later getting wherever you're going than if you had done something dangerous.
Yep.
And that's been proven by many studies over the years that like when you're in stalled traffic and everybody's jockeying for lanes and goes from one lane to the other, the net result is you get there at the same time or maybe 30 seconds earlier.
Yeah.
So take it easy, because if you pass one vehicle, and we're getting off the subject, chances are half mile down the road somebody else is going to be being slow, and you're going to hold you back up again. So anyway, if you get a long line of vehicles behind you, when it's safe to pull off, when you've got a really wide area to pull off for 20 seconds and let them go by.
Yeah.
That's
no one will think less of you.
No.
It's okay.
No, we'll be very
Nobody's
happy.
keeping score.
Anybody
We'll be
else
very
got a rant or rave? No.
That was like 3 rants.
All right, we're going to wind this thing up. Many thanks to everybody here today, our two-wheeling reporter, Brian Robinson, our over-the-edge reporter, Greg Carlos, and our digital producer, Jessica Ray, who is also the producer of this podcast, and our audio engineer, Jillian Cookman, and our podcast creator, Bob Mixter. Hey, out there, if you want more of MotorWeek, be sure to check out our website at motorweek.org. If you're looking for the public TV station that carries us, go up to the corner, pull down About the Show, put in your zip code. You'll get current days and times. You can watch us just about anywhere. As a matter of fact, we're available on almost all screens and devices, almost everywhere. So you can watch us at pbs.org/MotorWeek. You can stream us at various places. We're over on MAV TV, on our cable partner, which we're very happy about. And if you've got a screen, you can watch MotorWeek. I don't know what else to say.
That's that. I mean, I don't know. I don't think you mentioned YouTube.
YouTube.
You can't forget YouTube.
3 million of you every month are watching all of our segments going back decades on YouTube, and all of our classic revivals, our retro road tests, and we thank you very much for that, because that's a whole different audience.
Yeah.
And all the ideas you send in about what we can do about more retro road tests, we've send those right along to Ben Davis, our producer, and sooner or later you'll see him on the air.
And we're getting into some not so, or what feels like not so retro years, as I think Ben just posted like a 2004 Dodge Neon.
Oh, yeah.
We are in the 2000s. I know. And some of you guys have been waiting for a long time. We appreciate your patience. So there is more coming.
We are officially retro.
We are officially retro. We're everything automotive here at MotorWeek. Till next time, I'm John Davis. Thanks to all of you for being a part of MotorWeek.
You've been listening to the podcast of MotorWeek, television's original automotive magazine. MotorWeek is made possible by Lucas Oil, TireRack.com, and RockAuto.com. For additional information on podcasts, videos, and showtimes, visit our website at motorweek.org. And watch MotorWeek, television's longest-running automotive magazine series, each week on your local PBS station.